I have the luxury of having an unbelievable wife and help around the household to where they allow me to be able to use all my time while I'm playing the game. And listen, I know when I'm done playing the game, that time will be priority number one will be my wife. It will be my wife, my kids, you know, and I just thank them for allowing me to have me as priority number one while I've had this profession. They've allowed me to do that. And I know it's not always been like, you know, great roses and it's been, you know, amazing, but they've allowed me to make myself priority number one in my profession of how I treat my body, how I do things, the hours that I put into it in order to be the best I can be. And it's only right I give that back when I'm done.
The gymnasium lights cast long shadows across the polished floor as 17-year-old LeBron James dribbled alone in the empty St. Vincent St. Mary High School gym. It was late on a Tuesday evening in January 2002, and while most teenagers were at home doing homework or playing video games, LeBron was here, perfecting his craft under the weight of impossible expectations. Sports Illustrated had already declared him the chosen one. College scouts filled the bleachers at every game. ESPN was broadcasting his high school games nationally, but tonight, as sweat dripped from his forehead onto the court that had become his sanctuary, LeBron wasn't thinking about basketball. He was thinking about a girl. Her name was Savannah Brinson, and she had been occupying his thoughts for weeks. She was a sophomore at Booktill High School, their rival school, a cheerleader with a smile that could light up a room, and an attitude that suggested she wasn't impressed by anyone, especially not some basketball player. Everyone was calling the next Michael Jordan. LeBron had seen her at a mutual friend's party the previous weekend, while other girls had approached him, asked for photos, giggled when he spoke. Savannah had remained across the room with her friends, occasionally glancing his way but never making it easy. When he finally worked up the courage to introduce himself, she was polite but distant. "I know who you are," she had said simply, not with a starstruck expression he'd grown accustomed to, but with the tone of someone stating an obvious fact. "You're that basketball player everyone talks about." "Yeah, that's me," LeBron had replied, suddenly feeling more nervous than he did before any game. "I was wondering if maybe I could get your number." Savannah had paused, studying his face as if trying to determine whether he was serious or just another athlete looking for another conquest. Finally, she smiled, not the practiced smile of someone trying to impress him, but a genuine, cautious smile of someone willing to take a chance. "Maybe," she had said. "We'll see." Now, 3 days later, LeBron was still replaying that conversation in his head as he practiced free throws in the empty gym. He had gotten her number eventually, after proving through 20 more minutes of conversation that he was more than just highlights and hype. But he hadn't called yet. What do you say to a girl like Savannah Brinson when the whole world is watching your every move? His phone buzzed in his gym bag. A text from his teammate. "Yo, you calling that girl from Booktill, or what? Just do it, man." LeBron smiled, grabbed his phone, and scrolled to Savannah's contact. Before he could overthink it, he pressed call. "Hello?" Her voice was cautious, but not unfriendly. "Hey, it's LeBron. From the party the other night?" "I know who you are," she said again, but this time he could hear the smile in her voice. "What's up? I was wondering if you wanted to go out sometime, maybe this weekend?" There was a pause that felt like forever. "Then where would we go?" LeBron's mind raced. He wanted to impress her, but he also sensed that Savannah wasn't the type of girl who would be impressed by flashy gestures. "How about Outback Steakhouse? Or we could just hang out, maybe catch a movie." Another pause. "Okay, but I'm bringing my friends, and you can bring yours. I don't really do one-on-one dates with guys I barely know." "That's cool," LeBron said quickly, relief flooding through him. "That's totally cool." And that was how it started. Not with roses and limousines, but with a group date to Applebee's. They changed the plan last minute, where LeBron was so nervous he barely ate his chicken fingers, while Savannah's friends grilled him about his intentions with questions that had nothing to do with basketball. The early months of their relationship unfolded like any normal teenage romance, except nothing about their situation was normal. By the spring of 2002, LeBron's games were being broadcast on ESPN2. Magazine covers called him the next big thing. College recruiters promised everything from cars to houses to take care of his family if he'd commit to their schools. But when LeBron picked up Savannah for their dates, real dates now, just the two of them, they would drive to quiet spots around Akron, where they could talk without being recognized. They went to small restaurants in neighboring towns. They walked through parks where teenagers from rival high schools wouldn't spot them together. Do you ever think about what happens after graduation? Savannah asked one evening as they sat in LeBron's car outside her house, neither wanting the night to end. LeBron was quiet for a long moment. The NBA draft was calling. Everyone expected him to declare. The money, the fame, the pressure. It was all waiting for him. But sitting here with Savannah, he felt like just a regular 17-year-old kid trying to figure out his future. I think about it all the time, he admitted. But I also think about us. I think about whether you'll still want to be with me when everything changes. Savannah turned to face him fully. LeBron, I didn't start liking you because of basketball. I started liking you because you're funny, and you're kind, and you actually listen when I talk. Those things aren't going to change just because you get famous. But everything else will change, LeBron said. I'll have to move wherever gets drafted. There will be cameras everywhere. People will have opinions about everything we do, and we'll figure it out, Savannah said simply. Together, it was the first time either of them had used the word we when talking about the future, and it hung in the air between them like a promise. In April 2003, LeBron James declared for the NBA draft. He was 18 years old, Savannah was 16, and suddenly, their quiet teenage relationship was thrust into a spotlight neither of them had anticipated. The Cleveland Cavaliers selected LeBron first overall. Overnight, he became a millionaire. Overnight, Savannah Brinson became LeBron James's girlfriend in headlines across the country. Overnight, their relationship became public property. Are you ready for this? LeBron asked Savannah. The night before his first press conference as a professional athlete, they were sitting in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by the posters and trophies of his high school career, trying to process how much their lives were about to change. No, Savannah said honestly. Are you? No, LeBron admitted. But I know I want to do this with you. They had already established their rules by then. Though they didn't call them rules yet, they were just the things they did to make their relationship work. They talked about everything. Even when it was uncomfortable, they were honest with each other. Even when the truth was hard to hear, and they supported each other's growth. Even when that meant being apart or making sacrifices. Those principles would be tested immediately. LeBron's rookie season was a whirlwind of travel, training, and constant media attention. Savannah, still in high school, watched from Akron as her boyfriend became a national celebrity. When she attended games, cameras followed her every move. When she didn't attend games, sports talk shows speculated about their relationship status. I feel like I'm losing myself, Savannah confided to LeBron during one of their late-night phone calls while he was on a road trip. Everyone at school either treats me like I'm famous or like I'm a distraction from your career. I don't know how to just be me anymore. You're not losing yourself, LeBron said firmly. You're Savannah Brinson. You're smart. You're strong. You're the person who keeps me grounded. Don't let them take that away from you. But what if I'm not strong enough for this, she asked, voicing the fear she'd been carrying for months. And we'll figure out how to get stronger, LeBron said. Together, remember? In October 2004, when LeBron was 19 and Savannah was 18, their first son was born, LeBron James Jr. Bronny arrived during LeBron's second NBA season, instantly making their relationship more complicated and more meaningful than either of them had imagined. The critics were loud and immediate. Sports talk shows debated whether becoming a father so young would hurt LeBron's career. Tabloids speculated about their relationship. Internet forums were filled with opinions about two teenagers trying to raise a child under the brightest spotlight in sports. But in the quiet moments, feeding Bronny at 3 a.m. while LeBron had a game the next day, watching their son take his first steps in the living room of their Cleveland home, teaching him to say Dada and Mama, they discovered something profound. They were building a family. I used to think basketball was the most important thing in my life, LeBron told Savannah one evening, as they watched Bronny sleep in his crib. But looking at him, looking at us, I realized basketball is just what I do. This is who I am. Savannah smiled, exhausted but content. We're really doing this, aren't we? Building something real. We're doing more than that, LeBron said. We're building something that's gonna last. Their second son, Bryce, was born in 2007, the same year LeBron carried the Cavaliers to their first NBA Finals. As LeBron battled Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs on basketball's biggest stage, Savannah was home with two young boys managing the household, while her husband chased his dream. The Cavaliers lost that series, and LeBron was devastated. He came home feeling like he had failed his team, his city, and his family. But Savannah was waiting with perspective that only a true partner could provide. "You didn't lose anything that matters," she told him as they sat together after the kids were asleep. LeBron still processing the defeat. "You're still the same person who makes our boys laugh every morning. You're still the same person who works harder than anyone I know. You're still the same person I fell in love with. One basketball series doesn't change any of that, but I wanted to win for all of you," LeBron said. "We don't need you to win for us," Savannah replied. "We need you to be you for us. The winning will come." In 2010, LeBron made the decision, leaving Cleveland to join Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat. It was one of the most controversial moves in sports history, and it tested their relationship in ways they never could have anticipated. Cleveland fans burned his jerseys. He became the most hated athlete in America overnight. Death threats flooded their social media. For the first time in their relationship, the pressure wasn't just about success. It was about survival. "Maybe I made the wrong choice," LeBron said to Savannah during one of the darkest periods following his move to Miami. They were in their new home, boxes still unpacked, trying to create stability for their family while the world seemed to be against them.
"Did you make the choice you thought was best for our family?"
Savannah asked. "Yes." "Did you make it for the right reasons?" "Yes." "Then stop second-guessing yourself," she said firmly. "We've been through worse than this. We'll get through this too." But privately, Savannah was struggling as much as LeBron. The hate directed at him extended to her and their children. She worried about their safety, about the impact on their boys, about whether they had made a mistake leaving the only home they'd known. It was during this period that their 3 rules became explicitly clear, born out of necessity and refined through adversity. Communication became everything. They had to talk through every decision, every fear, every moment of doubt. When LeBron was struggling with the criticism, Savannah had to be able to tell him when his mood was affecting the family. When Savannah was feeling isolated in a new city, LeBron had to hear her concerns and help find solutions. Honesty became non-negotiable. There was no room for protecting each other's feelings when their family's well-being was at stake. They had to be honest about their fears, their regrets, their hopes, and their needs. Sugarcoating problems only made them worse. Being uncomfortable became a choice they made together. Every major decision in their lives required someone to be uncomfortable. Moving to Miami was uncomfortable for everyone. LeBron's learning to play a different role on the Heat was uncomfortable. Savannah starting over in a new city was uncomfortable. But they learned that discomfort didn't mean they were making wrong choices. It meant they were growing. In 2012 and 2013, LeBron won his first 2 NBA championships with the Miami Heat. As confetti fell and crowds cheered, the cameras always found Savannah in the stands, tears streaming down her face. Not just because her husband had achieved his dreams, but because they had survived the journey together. "I'm proud of you," she whispered in his ear during the celebration after the 2012 championship. "But not because you won. I'm proud of you because of who you became while you were trying to win." During their Miami years, Savannah also found her own identity beyond being LeBron's wife. She started getting involved in fashion, launched her own initiatives, and began speaking publicly about her experiences. For the first time since high school, she wasn't just supporting LeBron's dreams, she was pursuing her own. "I love watching you become who you're supposed to be," LeBron told her one evening as they watched her prepare for a public speaking engagement about young mothers pursuing education. "I always knew who I was supposed to be," Savannah replied. "I just needed time to become her." Their daughter Zuri was born in 2014, completing their family just as LeBron was making another major decision, returning to Cleveland to try to bring a championship to his hometown. "Are you ready to go home?" LeBron asked Savannah as they discussed the move. "With you and our kids, I'm ready for anything," she replied. The 2016 NBA Finals were the culmination of everything LeBron and Savannah had built together. Down 3-1 to the Golden State Warriors, facing elimination and the possibility that LeBron might never bring a championship to Cleveland, their family faced the biggest test of their lives. "Win or lose, we're going to be okay," Savannah told LeBron before Game 5. "Our kids are healthy, we love each other, and we've built something that can't be taken away by a basketball game." "I know," LeBron said, "but I also know I can't leave anything on the court. This might be our only chance." "Then don't leave anything on the court," Savannah said simply, "and we'll handle whatever happens together." LeBron didn't leave anything on the court. He delivered one of the greatest performances in finals history, leading Cleveland to its first major sports championship in 52 years. When the final buzzer sounded, when LeBron collapsed on the court in tears, when the city of Cleveland erupted in celebration, Savannah was there, not as a prop in his story, but as his partner, who had helped make it all possible. By 2024, LeBron and Savannah James had been together for over 20 years. They had navigated teenage pregnancy, professional pressures, career relocations, public criticism, championship glory, business ventures, and the challenge of raising 3 children in the public eye. When LeBron sat down for the 360 with Speedy podcast in September 2024, he was no longer the nervous teenager asking for a girl's phone number. He was a 39-year-old man who had learned what it meant to build something that lasts. "The relationship is never picture perfect," he said, his voice carrying the weight of 2 decades of experience. "But if you're able to work through the hardships and the adverse moments, then it will make it all worth it, man. Like, we've been together since high school, so it ain't going to always be a bed of roses, man." He shared their 3 rules: communication, honesty, and being comfortable with discomfort. Not as theoretical advice, but as practical wisdom earned through years of implementation. "I think communication is number 1. Being honest is number 2. Number 3 is just like you have to be okay with being uncomfortable in relationships. Sometimes, man, you can't always have it your way. You can't always think that my way or the highway. The saying happy wife, happy life, that's real, bro." These weren't just words to LeBron and Savannah. They were the foundation of everything they had built together. In October 2024, LeBron James and his son Bronny became the first father-son duo to play together in an NBA game. As they stood side by side during the national anthem, Savannah watched from the stands with Bryce and Jury, witnessing the culmination of a love story that had started with a nervous phone call 22 years earlier. The boy who had been afraid to call a girl from a rival high school had become a man who understood that the greatest victories aren't always won on basketball courts. They're won in quiet moments, in difficult conversations, in the decision to stay and work through problems instead of walking away. The cheerleader who had almost said no to a date with a basketball player had become a woman who understood that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth building something perfect with. Together, they had proven that real love stories aren't fairy tales where everything is easy and beautiful all the time. Real love stories are about 2 people who choose each other every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. As LeBron and Bronny checked into their first NBA game together, Savannah smiled, remembering that 17-year-old boy who had been so nervous about making a phone call. He had been right to be nervous. That call had changed everything, but he had been wrong about one thing. It wasn't going to be easy. It was going to be better than easy. It was going to be real. And 22 years later, they were still building something real together. One uncomfortable conversation, one honest moment, one choice to stay committed at a time. The king had found his queen, not in a castle or a fairy tale, but in a high school hallway in Akron, Ohio. And together, they had built an empire that no amount of fame, pressure, or time could tear down. Because the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people. They're about imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other. And this story was just getting started.